From a dress company to McDonald's, here's the Nutter News. This week in Nutter News, we first travel to Palos Dress Company. The owner of the company is named Piper, and she has a son who is showing signs of being genderqueer. In her viral TikTok video, Piper explains how she used to be a manager at their local Joann's fabric store and always had problems with one of their employees at the store for anti-LGBTQ comments. Piper's son was being bullied at school, so his mother decided to take him to Joann's fabric store after school one day to pick out fabrics for his new dress, since he loves wearing them. After picking out the Spider-Man and blue fabric, the Joann's fabric employee kept telling her son that boys shouldn't wear dresses, and keeps saying horrible things to her child. A manager finally came over to cut her fabric for her instead of the employee, but the employee kept saying horrible things. Piper got the fabric, and this is how that amazing dress turned out. And can I just say, you look fabulous, by the way. Piper complained to corporate, but there was no response. Then she made a TikTok video, which has since gained over 4.1 million views. And finally, Joann responded that they since let that employee go, and they are committed to diversity and inclusion of all customers. In other words, they just don't like bad press, especially considering tons of LGBTQ people buy art supplies there. The Palos Dress Company has 5-star reviews, and you should definitely give her and her son some love over on TikTok.
In other news, the Boston Children's Hospital had to evacuate their buildings this week because a woman called in a bomb threat. The Children's Hospital offers gender-affirming care for transgender youth among thousands of other life-saving treatments for children across the country and around the world. But recently, the hate group Libs of TikTok spread the lie that the Children's Hospital was doing gender-affirming surgeries on children. The hospital responded that no hospital in the United States can perform those surgeries on anyone younger than 18 years old. But the founder of the hate group is so dumb that she didn't know that. This has been the second children's hospital so far this month that had bomb threats thanks to this Libs of TikTok hate group, yet their founder somehow isn't in jail. A woman who follows the hate group online and blindly believes everything she hears on that hate group's website called the hospital with her personal cell phone, allowing the FBI to immediately figure out who she was and arrest her. As it turns out, the woman made 237 separate donations since 2016 to the Trump campaign, and fully believes that sending the hospital a bomb would save kids' lives. She is currently being held in federal prison for terrorism, but the head of the hate group, Libs of TikTok, is currently still free to incite more violence for some reason online. But honestly, it's good to hear that these hate groups and terrorists are actually this dumb to use their personal cell phones. Otherwise, it'd be a lot harder to catch them and a lot more difficult to actually stop these kind of bombings.
In Nutter News, last week we told you that Peppa Pig introduced its first gay couple onto the show with Penny the polar bear, who has 2 moms. We also told you that the show is broadcast in 180 countries and translated into 40 languages. One of those countries is Italy. But after the episode aired on Italian TV, some spicy meatballs in the far-right political party called Brothers of Italy went frickin' crazy. They said Italians, quote, cannot accept gender indoctrination, and asked the broadcaster not to air the episode anymore. The broadcaster is refusing that request because it's a polar bear in a cartoon, and these homophobes have their pasta twisted too tight. The political party is expected to win a majority in the upcoming election and win the prime minister position in this next election, so we shall see if this makes a difference on how LGBTQ friendly their TV shows are allowed to be in the future. But for now, get over it, homophobes!
In other news, we now travel to Missouri, where a teacher decided to put up a 4-inch rainbow flag in their classroom to tell all students that they are valid and how loved they are. This is one of the many things we instruct teachers to do in their classrooms in our LGBTQ-friendly classroom masterclass and book. Oddly, if a student had brought the flag in, it would be protected under federal law, that the student would be allowed to have it in class under freedom of speech. but because the teacher brought it in, somehow it can be debated in courtrooms. The alderman of the county made a Facebook post about it, alleging that the teacher hung the rainbow flag and transgender pride flags in her classroom. He also claimed the teacher was reading books with adult content to kids in their classroom, but in truth, the only thing this teacher did was hang the rainbow flag, not the trans pride flag, and especially not read mature books to students. These blatant lies took over the Facebook page, and he since deleted his Facebook post. But the school district then held a board meeting to discuss the issue and debate whether or not the teacher should be allowed to express free speech in school like students are already allowed to do under federal law. But the far-right hate group, the Proud Boys, showed up to this board meeting and tried intimidating the school board to rule that the teacher should not be allowed to hang a pride flag. And for some reason, the school board has not seen through this intimidation and is still debating the issue. And hey, Camdenton School District, if you're still debating this, let me help. On the one side, you have a teacher trying to save kids' lives and trying to show how loved all students will be in her classroom. On the other side, you have people trying to hide their Facebook post because they can't back up their wild claims, and a hate group who literally tried to physically intimidate you to side with them. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with a first grade bully. I mean, you are a school, so you probably should know how to deal with this, but typically, you don't spend a week or more trying to decide if you're going to side with a bully or the LGBTQ victim. Otherwise, you're just protecting the bully and telling these hate groups that intimidation works.
In other news, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in favor of an LGBTQ group this week. It was a major victory for GSA clubs who have historically won every court case. It seems every time an LGBTQ club starts in a school, the school does everything they can to shut it down, including filing lawsuits to ban the club. But every single time the school loses, and the club is allowed to continue. This is because it's a federal law in the U.S. that schools are not legally allowed to shut down an LGBTQ club for any reason, including religious beliefs. But a Jewish university in New York tried to shut it down anyway, and not recognize the club. But the Supreme Court ruled in the club's favor, and now the school is mandated by the highest court in the country to post the club on its website right alongside every other club.
In other news, we next travel to Virginia Beach City Public Schools, where their school board just proposed a bill that would require schools to send an email to parents every time their child checks out a book from their school library, and would require parents to sign off on every book before it's distributed in class. This would literally mean parents could pick and choose the education their kids receive, and groom their kids into being less educated on key issues. This effort was done in hopes to out LGBTQ kids to their parents, something that has led to kids committing suicide, being harassed and assaulted by their parents, and being kicked out in the past. But this school board actually debated the issue. They eventually voted down the idea to require books to be signed off on before being distributed in class. But they kept the idea that the school would email your parents if you signed out a book in the library. This will eventually lead to a major lawsuit against the school and probably a couple suicides. But since this school district really doesn't care about kids' lives, I guarantee you they don't care about any of that. But for now, students can check out ProfessorPride.com because we're assembling LGBTQ books and articles over there, and we won't tell your parents anything. Because, newsflash, parents don't always know what's best for their kids, especially homophobic ones.
In other good news this week, a man on Twitter named Tom Peach posted about his experience at a local McDonald's this week. He said, quote, "There are some school kids on the table next to us in McDonald's practicing their friends' new they and them pronouns." Tom explained how one of the students said, quote, "If we practice now, then think how happy they'll be on Monday at school." Well, most of our stories today involve the school district or adults being horrible to kids. The truth is that kids are genuinely kind to one another if they are taught to love one another. Hating someone is learned behavior. And while our good news this week shows you there are fantastic people in the world, it also shows you that these homophobes aren't just indoctrinating our kids to be straight. They're indoctrinating them to hate other people too. If you see an LGBTQ news story you'd like us to cover in our weekly news show, tell us all about it in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ community, check out this episode right here, or subscribe for weekly episodes. And if you like what we do and want some awesome merch, including Mr. Nutterbutter stickers and shirts, go to pbrmerchstore.com. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Nutterbutters.
And I'm Professor Pride.
Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.